obviously it starts with him. He's the head of our snake, and he's played really well, really efficient. I think kind of the buildup of Wake Forest on through, like we've seen similar coverages from a ball screen perspective, and so I think he's really settled into kind of how to play against a 2-on-the-ball coverage. And as our defense has gotten better, we've gotten a little bit more in transition, and that's helped him as well. And then LJ Case has been great, just in a backup role, but really leaning into who he is, valuing the basketball. Obviously, Roddy and Namari have been steady as ever, so it's been fun seeing our guards kind of get it done.
How about Trey as well?
Oh, man.
He's really mature.
Unbelievable, yeah. He feels like a vet. He plays like a vet. He's really, really solid. I don't even know if he's aware how well he's playing, but he's playing great.
Justin, have you seen the team respond to maybe the spotlight of being number 1 in KenPom, number 3 in the AP poll this week? We're
going to find out. Obviously, you think about what's harder to handle, success or failure. It's hard to handle success. I think it's much harder to handle success. So it's going to be a challenge for us. I do think we have the leadership, obviously with our staff, but also with our returners and with our older players. They understand that you have a target on your back, and there's a standard that we've set. I think obviously playing in Vegas and playing at the level we did, I think it's on us now to cement that standard. That's what it's going to look like when you play against Michigan.
Kind of going off of that, I think like the casual observer would wonder what you even found at fault from those games to kind of teach the guys. Did you find some things, and how receptive were they to that?
Not much. I'd say we were creating some things maybe in the film sessions, but transition D was one, like us defensive transition, and a lot of that is, you may not be sprinting back or communicating at the level you need to because of the score. Still some bad fouls, I would say, like just fouling down. We're still adjusting to the rim protection that we have, right? You got a Die behind you, you got Merez behind you, you got Yaks behind you, so you have elite level rim protection behind you. So our guards understanding, not fouling down, allowing our size to change shots at the rim.
So you take us through if you find out you're playing Gonzaga, you apparently started early on the scout, but how much sleep do you get?
Yeah.
What is that whole process like?
Well, I'll start this, a lot's been made of the Gonzaga game. We have an unbelievable staff. We talk about matchups, right, from a player perspective, but I would say with our staff, which starts at the top with Dusty, but I feel like, we're gonna compete at that matchup every night. So we have a really good staff, and once I finished San Diego State, me and Drew had San Diego State together. I jumped right on the Gonzaga. It was just, they had won by a large amount. There was about 3 or 4 teams that we could play, and Gonzaga was one of them. So I jumped on Gonzaga. And yeah, it was, that night I didn't get much sleep, probably got 3 or 4 hours, and that was just because just trying to catch up. And that was more spent on the current Gonzaga roster, I'd say, that first night, and kind of how they're playing, what they're doing. And once I had familiarized myself with how they're playing this year and their personnel, then I kind of dug into the St. Mary's files and watched a couple St. Mary's games from my time there. Obviously the 2019 game we held in 47, and they were number 1 in the country. I watched that game, and then I watched the 23-24 game, and just dug into kind of what our rules were defensively, how we guarded them, the details of it, and then just trying to figure out how we can do it with our personnel, and ultimately clashing heads with Coach Boynton, clashing heads with Coach Church on the defense side of the ball. And just trying to figure out a plan that worked, and then presenting it to Coach May, and obviously him having trust in us and allowing us to try and execute it. And then ultimately, all the credit goes to the players for adjusting on the fly and doing their job at the highest level.
What has Coach Boynton brought to this staff?
Professionalism, maturity, experience, all the things you would think from a veteran assistant that's been a head coach at the highest level. He's a sounding board for all of us. I think he does a great job of helping Coach May handle some of the things logistically that maybe guys that haven't been head coaches aren't familiar with. He's been great there. He's been obviously great for our assistant coaches. We can bounce anything off of him. He really is a sounding board for our staff, and he's helped us a ton.
Is there anything in particular? I know he's not that much older than you, that much more experienced, but still been the head coach, like you said.
Decision making, I would say decision making. Whether it's off season, whether it's game planning, whether it's messaging and going into a game, messaging going into a practice, just decision making. He's had so much experience, and I think he's done a great job of obviously putting his imprint on our staff from an X's and O's perspective, but also kind of laying back in being a sounding board and being somebody that can help you kind of create your own path and handle your own journey.
Thanks.
playing so many games in such a short period of time. Coach May said a few weeks ago he loves these tournaments because it really prepares the team for March and going out in the future. What did you learn from the team as a whole, going through those like tape in the night of, knowing who you're going to play the next day, and then you kind of going through the totem pole of you presenting it to Coach May and then presenting it to the players, and everyone just being so ready every single night and going out and dominating?
I'd say, you know what, last year when we went to Florida, it was similar. Like, we learned a little bit about our team with a quick turnaround. It's kind of the same now. Like, we realized less is more for our team, if that makes sense. It's like, we don't want to overload them with stats. We don't want to overload them with coverages. We don't want to overload them with solutions offensively. We want to give them the nuts and bolts. We want to try and prepare them for what's going to happen a lot in the game, and then allow them to be themselves and go execute at a high level. I think kind of the theme for this team has been just hit singles. Like, just keep it simple, hit singles. We have really good players around us. If we can do the simple things at a high level, we'll be hard to beat.
And also, with now a month into the season, how have you seen the team just taking form? Obviously, the chemistry is really showing on the court. What have you seen off the court from the team to really been able to put it together both offensively and defensively, and everyone just clicking on all cylinders?
I think they like each other. I mean, speak to off the court. Like, I think they like each other. I think Coach May and, KT Harrell and some of our staff have done a great job of making sure that we get together and spend time, whether it's bowling, just spend time away from basketball to get to know each other. I think one of the things the portal can expose is your locker room a little bit. You're bringing in new personalities on a year-to-year basis. So you have to have your locker room intact early to have success early. And I think we've done a good job, and our players, luckily we didn't recruit guys that aren't good people and they like each other. That's a huge piece to it. On the court, kind of similar to like just learning each other. Like, I talk about the size a lot. Like, you look at the Wake Forest game, how many times we fouled when a guy's getting ready to block a shot. So just learning each other on the floor, learning where guys' strengths lie, and then allowing them to live in their strengths to the best of their ability on both sides of the ball has been important. And then I think our guys have learned a lot through film and learned a lot through failure. Like, it's the best way to fail, I think, is to win, obviously. So like, you look at some of our games earlier in the season, we didn't play great, and people were kind of like, what's going on? It gave us a chance as a staff to really hone in on some things that we felt were going to help us in the long run, and I think our guys have taken hold to it.
I want to ask about the Cornett contest that you guys have. I guess just what made you guys want to implement that, and I guess was it hard to get guys to buy into that?
Yeah, it started last year. We played Wisconsin, and I think Coach had talked about it already, but they weren't banging threes when we first played them. Like, they weren't shooting the ball at a great level. And then kind of throughout the course of the year, their 4s and 5s started shooting the 3 at a high level. And going into that game, we didn't want to switch our coverage up because we had such success in the first game against them. But we wanted to make sure our bigs were aware of it, and we knew we were going to be behind on a lot of plays. And so we showed our guys clips of Cornett closeouts, and then Vlad dialed in and did it more so than anybody else, and it really helped. And so, kind of fast forwarding to the Wake Forest game, there was a little bit of like fear of Spillers banging threes and Ballou banging threes, because last year when we played Wake Forest, those guys were non-shooters, and yet their 5s banged 5 threes against us. So that was a concern for us going into that game, and so we circled back specifically with Adai on the Cornett closeout, and he had great success in that game. He blocked one, he changed a bunch, and so now you have guys like Merez and Yaks. We're trying to get Yaks to do it, but Yaks is starting to, and even like Elliott and Roddy Gale, those guys, when they're behind, they're giving great efforts and trying to deter vision of the shooter. So it's been good for us, and yeah, hopefully we're not behind as much, but there's going to be scenarios which we are, and we want our guys to play that out, and Cornett's been a great example of you can affect a shot from a farther distance.
I guess, do you guys track data on that, and you have numbers that maybe show that it's been effective?
We're working on it now. It's not fully done, but we're working on it now. I would say the eye test would say that it's been pretty beneficial for us.
You guys are turning the page to Big Ten so far. You started off great in the conference last year. I guess, what is the key to that, and how much emphasis do you guys put on a Big Ten regular season title?
A lot. I mean, I think when you're in this kind of situation, you're at an institution like Michigan, and the bar is so high internally. Yeah, I think you put a huge emphasis in every game, but certainly the Big Ten being the powerhouse league that it is, and it's probably the best league in the country right now. We want to do our best to win the league, and every game matters. And I think one of the things with the transfer portal is you don't have guys that have felt Big Ten play. We're lucky that Adai and Merez have come from Big Ten programs, so we have that. But some guys just haven't felt it. But we have guys in our locker room that have, and it helped us last year, and I think it's going to help us even more this year.
And then just a couple thoughts on Rutgers. They haven't gotten off to the best start, but what do you see from them?
You know what? They play hard. They're scrappy. They really come at the rim. Like, we got to do a good job of, you know, defending without fouling. I think it's always important, you know, especially when you play at home, to take away threes, to take away transition. So that's going to be paramount for us, obviously. And then, we got to rebound the ball because they're good on the offensive glass, and they don't shoot a ton of threes, but they do shoot it at a good percentage. So taking them off the three, taking them off the boards, taking them out of transition is going to be super important.
Can it be a challenge in any way to come off a week like last week where it's like back to back to back and it feels like you carry momentum kind of night to night, to then have like 9 days off between games just to keep the momentum going?
Yeah, it can be. I think, you know, it's always good to kind of get back to your roots and get back to your team and not have to worry about an opponent. Because there's things for us to clean up. There's things for us to address that haven't happened yet internally that could happen with success, right? So I think the 9 days was great for us to kind of get into our team a little bit and really try and solve some issues that we have and some issues that we don't have yet, and get ahead of some things. But at the same time, you know, guys want to play ball. Guys want to play against other teams. And as competitors, so do coaches. So for us, it's important to keep things fresh from a practice perspective, and then as we turn the page, let's turn the page into competition and understand what's happening. Like, we're playing in the Big Ten, like we're playing for high stakes, we're playing against really good competition. Like, let's be dialed in and be ready for war.
With so many blowouts, a lot of guys have now gotten a chance to play in a lot of big games. Last year, Coach May shrinked his lineup a little bit once Big Ten play started to go on. Now with so many guys who have been contributing, what will that maybe lineup look like over the next few weeks? Is it could still kind of be a lot of guys getting in, or maybe will you start seeing a little more shifting in the lineup?
I'm not sure. I mean, everybody's been so productive. Like, I think that's our superpower, is our depth, like our ability to play multiple guys, multiple lineups. We can play big, we can play semi-big, we can play downsize. Like, we can do a lot of things. We can play fast, we can play slow. So I think that's kind of our superpower. Obviously, in terms of rotations, I think, you know, the game is going to call for what it calls for. Like, if we need to play a more up-tempo brand or a smaller brand because they're hurting us in a certain way, then we'll be able to adjust. But that's what having a lot of good players does for you. You know, we have a lot of good players on our roster.
It's like LJ and Trey, when they've come in together recently, been a bit of a spark. What do you think they unlock in each other?
It's a great question. I think they're both, it's funny, like, LJ's more of a point probably than Trey, but I think Trey is a little bit more, how do I phrase this? He's got a really calm floor game, and I think that allows LJ to go be LJ. It allows him to go attack in transition. It allows him to go try and be a playmaker on the ball. And with Trey's shooting, but also his ability just to play a solid floor game, I think it helps LJ play to his strengths. And then obviously we have, you know, it's not like it's just, you know, Trey and LJ. It's Roddy Gale's out there, Adai, or Merez. You have other three other really good players around them. It's going to allow Trey to also get wide open shots, and he shot it at a good level.
Talked about hitting singles. Roddy Gill seems like a pinch hitter kind of in that aspect. How have you seen him adjust to the new role he has this year and the spark he provides off the bench?
He's been absolutely egoless. Like, you know, I think he kind of went through it last year in some ways, and you know, when he went to the bench, I've never seen a player handle it like better than he did last year. And this year it's been the exact same. He's just an egoless player. He's really found his stride, both sides of the ball. Defensively, we've been really pleased with him. His fight, his determination, his rebounding, and then obviously offensively, he just let the game come to him. And again, when you're surrounded by good players and you can kind of live in your strengths and stay away from maybe some of your weaknesses, like he's done that. He's got great self-awareness as a player, and so I think he's going to continue to grow and be a great player for us.
What have you seen from Winter since he's gotten here? Obviously, you recruited him pretty heavily.
Workhorse, like absolute workhorse, obsessed with basketball, loves the game. You know, one of the things that you think about, like our last 3 games, you know, you beat San Diego State by 40, you beat, you know, Auburn by 30, you beat Gonzaga by 40. It gives your young guys a chance to play like real minutes. You look at the end of that Gonzaga game, they got 3 starters out there. Like, you're playing against a top 10 team with 3 other starters, so like these minutes matter. And these guys play against one of the best teams in the country every day at practice. So like, they're playing against really good competition on a day-to-day basis. They're getting better. I think it's always hard, you know, when your name's not called throughout the course of a competition. Like, it's hard to keep yourself right, and that's with any young player that's going through it. But again, you have to understand that we all run our different race, and staying the course, and you're gonna bend, and you're gonna have struggles, but you can't break. You just gotta keep going. And if you don't break, you're gonna have success. Like, you're gonna be a really good player. And that's the hard part for young players, but I think LJ's a good example of that last year. You know, he bet and he had some DNPs, and because he didn't break, he had great success late in the year for us.
Is he your best shooter, like in drills? Is there a way to, I mean, obviously, the other guys are in and it's game flow, but
Yeah.
is in terms of a pure shooter?
He's I mean, one of two or three. Like, he's an elite shooter. You know, I think he'll have moments this year where people are like, dang, like he's a big time shooter. And he's got more to his game. He can pass. He's tough. He's physical. He can guard. So you just got to stay ready.
Going back to the Big Ten race, I mean, last season you guys were in the mix until the final week of the regular season. I guess just what can you take from that experience that can help this team better prepared for what's to come?
I mean, it's a long season, and I think as you know, you go through a race, you go through a grind, you go through a journey. It's all about the day-to-day process and getting lost in the day-to-day. And so, you know, not looking forward, not looking back, and just living in the moment and trying to be your best on a day-to-day basis is important. I think your leadership's really important. You know, as you know, your player-led teams that have been through these wars, that have been through these races, we're gonna call on them. Like, we're gonna call on Namaria Will. You know, we're gonna call on Merez. We're gonna call on these guys. You know, Roddy Gale. Like, we need those guys to be, you know, sharp and iron tight for us to have success and really make it through this long race. But again, it's one day at a time. We gotta have a great practice today.
As far as the Big Ten in general, have you seen, I imagine you saw Purdue since they played Rutgers, Michigan State at all, or really, I guess, yeah, what have you seen from so far?
We have really good teams, and like, every team is a little bit different, you know, like Purdue's a little bit different than Michigan State, than Wisconsin, than UCLA, than Iowa. Like, this is a really good league, and it's a lot of different types of games, but what's similar with all of these programs is the toughness and the physicality. And having lived that for a year now, you know, having felt that for a year now, I think it's gonna serve us well moving forward. So yeah, great teams, great programs, great coaches, and you know, I think we have the team that can, you know, take it day by day and have success.
That was a big emphasis this offseason, the toughness and what you learned in the Big Ten.
Yeah.
How would you, as like, if you were giving it a grade, how would you grade now how you've done so far?
We're ahead. You know, as a staff, like, aside from putting helmets on and letting them play football, it's going to be hard to always develop that toughness at a high level. I think you got to recruit it. I think you got to have guys that have been in wars and felt it. I think we have guys, you know, with our veterans and with the guys that we brought in, we have guys that have played physical and kind of, you know, value physical toughness. And so we'll lean on those guys a ton, but we're definitely ahead of schedule in that regard in comparison to last year.
Anything else for Coach? Okay, thanks.
Appreciate it.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Thanks, Justin.